Hey guys, it's Miss P here. Today we are going to do a technique called question formulation technique. You may have used this in some of your other classes, but just as a refresher, the Q stands for question, F stands for formulation, and technique stands for, or T stands for technique. When we think of questions, it's usually something that we ask. To formulate something means to create, and a technique is something that you do. So we are going to get into QFT today. So what QFT is, it's a structured process for creating your own questions about a topic. I, as the teacher, am going to facilitate, meaning that I'm going to make sure that everyone is doing everything on task. And then you guys are going to not only produce questions, but you're going to categorize them and prioritize them, and then revise them, and then we will share them. So remember, to formulate something means to create or produce. So today what we are going to be doing is producing or creating a ton of questions. So first, I want you guys to get in roles. You're in your tables. There's going to be a scribe, which is going to be the person who writes down all the questions. I know some of you only have groups of 3. That's fine. If you have groups of 3, then the manager 1 and manager 2 becomes the same person. So if you have groups of 4, manager 1 is going to keep the group on task. Remember all of the rules that we went over, and you're also going to encourage people to ask questions. Manager 2 is going to be Mr. or Mrs. Cell Phone Police. So if you see a cell phone out, you need to make sure that you tell that person to put their phone away. So this would probably not be a good job for someone who's always on their phones. And then lastly, I'm going to have the reporter. The reporter is going to share out your top questions at the end of the day. So remember, the scribe, maybe someone who can write really quickly or has really neat handwriting. Manager isn't afraid to tell people what to do. Manager number 2 is the cell phone police, and then we have a reporter, which is going to be someone who's talking to the class. So maybe someone who has a good voice, or maybe someone who isn't afraid to talk in front of other people. I'm going to pass out your paper right now. On the top right hand corner, I want you to write your names and your role. So for example, if I am going to be the scribe, I'm going to write Miss P and then dash scribe. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and go on to that right now. Once you're finished with that, I want to help you or give you guys a couple rules to produce questions. So ask as many questions as you can. So in order to do this, we have to figure out what we're going to be asking questions about. So today I'm going to play a video that follows a family. We are going to see this family a lot, so I want you to come up with a lot of questions. Remember, there are no dumb questions or no stupid questions. Ask anything you would like. In your groups, I don't want you to judge or answer or discuss any of the questions. If you think you know the answer, that's great. Keep it to yourself. If you think someone asks a silly question, don't show your expression. Just keep it to yourself. And then you don't have to answer or discuss the questions. I just want you to come up with your own questions. And then the scribe is going to write down every question exactly as stated. So, for example, if I'm in my group and I say, "What is the name of this movie?" the scribe is going to write down, "What is the name of this movie?" If the person asks, "What is the title of this movie?" then the scribe would not write down, "What is the name of this movie?" So that's an example. It needs to be exactly how the person says it. And then lastly, we're going to change our statements into questions. So remember, a statement ends with a period and a question ends in a question mark. So yes, some of these might be a little bit challenging, but that's okay. I want you to try to come up with as many questions as you can in the amount of time that I give you. Okay, and it's very important to follow these rules. So now I'm going to play the video. I want you to have your ears on and your eyes paying attention. Look for observations. Maybe think of something that makes you curious. Maybe you don't know what they're talking about. Those are going to be great questions. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video right now. All right, so now that we have come up with all of our questions, played the video twice, you were able to write down plenty of questions. So now we're going to categorize these questions. We're going to make them in close-ended and open-ended. So a closed question can be answered with yes or no, or maybe a one-word or two-word answer. It does not require an explanation. Open-ended questions, on the other hand, can be answered with multiple sentences, and they do require an explanation. So maybe one example would be of a close-ended question would be, what is your favorite color? If I asked you what your favorite color was, you would respond blue. Doesn't require an explanation, and it can only be, or the response is usually only one word. If I rephrased it into an open-ended question, I would say, why is your favorite color blue? Then you would have to say, well, Miss P, my favorite color is blue because the Dodgers are my favorite baseball team and their main color is blue. So that is the difference between open-ended and close-ended questions. What questions so far do you guys have for me regarding this close-ended and open-ended questions? If we don't have any, we're gonna go ahead and categorize the questions that we made. So you're gonna look at all the questions you wrote down. You are going to mark a C for the close-ended questions and an O for the open-ended questions. Okay, so let's quickly review. So if I ask you what a close-ended question is, if I ask you the question, what color hair do the children have in the video? Is that going to be a C or an O? So I want everyone to participate. Go ahead and make a C with your hand or an O with your hand. If you think it's a close-ended, make a C. If you think it's an O or open-ended question, make an O. Good. So as I'm looking around, I see that that is a close-ended question. The kids are blonde or the kids are brown-haired. What about if I asked it, why do the kids have blonde hair? Is that closed or open-ended? Good, I see a lot of O's. So that means that it's open-ended. There's a reason for the kids to have blonde hair, that when they should have dark hair, right? So we're going to go into the conversation about genes. So I want you to go through all of your questions and label which ones are closed and which ones are open. Once you're finished with that, you're going to change one to close-ended. So one of your close-ended to open-ended and one of your open-ended to close-ended. So I gave you an example earlier. What is your favorite color would be a closed-ended question. I could rephrase it. My favorite color is, or what is the reason that your favorite color is blue would be an open-ended question. Okay, so I want you to just choose one. Now that you guys have gone over all of your open and closed-ended questions, I want you to prioritize them. So prioritize means let's pick out the ones that are really, really important and ones probably not so important. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to choose 3 questions that you consider most interesting. Might be different from another group, that's okay. We're going to combine all these questions and see what kind of questions we come up with. Remember, these are going to be really important. Right now, we probably don't know the answer, but as we follow this family throughout the next couple of weeks, we're going to get our answers to these questions. So once you have figured out your top 3, then you're going to figure out which one is the most important, which one is the second most important, which one is the third most important. Once you've done that, you're going to give me an explanation. Why is this important? Give me a reason why. And if you don't think any of your questions are important, you can go ahead and revise your questions to figure out some that are important. Okay, so I want you guys to go ahead and do that. So once you do that, we're going to go on Google Classroom. I made a slide deck So you guys are going to find your group number. You all know your group numbers. You're going to find your group number. You're going to write your top 3 questions down. Then we're going to share them together. And the reporter, remember your reporter from today, the reporter is going to read the questions and give an explanation. So on the slide, you don't have to put an explanation, but the reporter should be able to tell me exactly why you chose these questions. Okay? So now we're going to go over all of the questions. Maybe as a class, we can come up with 3 really, really important questions that we really want to know the answers to. And then we are going to do a reflection. So what did we notice about QFT? How did it make you feel? How can the QFT foster and improve critical thinking? So remember, the reason that we are doing this is because questions. Who knows where I find a question in science class? Great. I should have heard scientific method. So the first step in the scientific method is to come up with a question. So by looking at a video, you're coming up with all of these questions. You're figuring out what is most important. That is how scientists come up with answers to things. They do research. They come up with questions, usually open-ended, but they will come up with questions and they'll perform experiments. And that is what you just did. So you guys are going to now come up with your top 3 questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer them by investigation throughout this unit.